Hey guys, welcome to the first Your Way to Fitness YouTube video. Today we're going to look at the 4 main principles of exercise. A lot of times people don't understand exactly why and how exercise works, but they know that they need to exercise. So today's just going to be a little bit of a crash course into some of the ways that we can exercise and why it really works for us. Alright, so the first main principle is the overload principle. The overload principle essentially is that we need to stress the body systems in order to improve. It's no pain, no gain kind of thing. A lot of people don't love this part of exercise because it's the uncomfortable component. It's the part that doesn't feel great and it hurts a little bit. But at the end of the day, no matter what kind of exercise you're doing, whether you want to improve muscular strength, muscular endurance, aerobic fitness, flexibility, just your body composition, it's gonna feel a little bit uncomfortable at the beginning. And that's okay. Exercise is meant to basically ferment the muscles by releasing lactic acid when you stress your muscles a lot. And essentially what happens is they rip and they have to reform when you sleep. So that's the first main principle, is the principle of overload. The second one is the reversibility principle. And this principle is that if you stop exercising, your muscles will go back to the way they naturally were before. Now, some people look a little more muscular than others, and you might say, oh, well, I'm just not naturally a muscular person, or I'm not naturally a lean person, or whatever your goal for fitness is to be. But that's not entirely true. You see, our phenotypes are the product of our environment and our genotype. So what that means, basically, is that how we look, how we are physically, is a component of our environment that we were raised in, which we have complete control over usually, and our genes. So though genes do play a little bit of a part, they don't mean everything. So anyone can get fit. But if you stop exercising, you can go exactly back to where you were before. So that's why it's super important to remain fit and active every single day, if possible. Alright, so the third main principle is the specificity principle. And this is just that there's a bunch of different ways to exercise, and they affect different components of our body. Not only different muscles, but certain aspects of each muscle. You can have exercises that focus on muscular strength, which would be 1 to 6 rep typically, or that focus on muscular endurance, which would be something more like push-ups when you're doing 20, maybe 30 push-ups. But if you can only do a couple push-ups, then you'd be doing muscular strength. So it's a bit complicated, but running, for instance, you're focusing on aerobic conditioning. And bench press usually is muscular strength or power. And if you're doing squats with your body weight, you're probably going to be doing more than if you're doing squats with a heavy weight on your back. Alright, so the last main principle for today is the individuality principle. And this essentially is just that there are individual differences that will play into how well you exercise and how well you adapt to certain programs. And that's why it's important to find your way to fitness, because there's no one way that'll work for everybody. There's different ways that are going to work for each person, and it's going to be a product of your genotype. It's going to be a product of how your body composition was going into it, what kind of things you enjoy. That's a huge one. If you don't like exercising, you're not likely to do it. You have to make it important. You have to make it something that isn't just, you're not just interested in. You're not just going to do it when it's convenient, but you're committed to exercising and improving. And you gotta love doing it. At the end of the day, if you don't really love exercising, it's just something that's gonna go away. And I definitely have had times when I don't exercise, when I'm like, oh, I don't want to. And that's mostly because I think of it as something I have to do, not something that I love to do. Yeah, and there's lots of other variables to consider. Like in the summer, it's easier to exercise than in the winter, especially if you live like in Vancouver or other places where it's not sunny all the time. Alrighty, so the 4 main principles, we'll go over them one more time. The overload principle. Basically, you have to stress the muscle systems in order for them to improve. The reversibility principle. If you stop exercising, you're going to go back to the way you were before. The specificity principle. You got to focus on whether you want to improve strength, whether you want to improve endurance, what kind of body you want to have, which muscles you want to improve on. Very specific ways to do each of those. And the individuality principle, everyone has a different way to exercise, and the most important thing is to find your way. Alright, see you guys again next week.